Yes, alright. So, I'm not very happy about doing this. Um, because, what the fuck, man? Gosh damn it. What is going on? Oh. What the hell? Oh boy. Sorry. Yeah. So the reason I'm not happy about doing this is because this is going to be a very long video. And it's going to, it's just so much information. And so this is part of the storyboard. This is why this storyboard is such a mindfuck, man. So I just discovered these two bits of information, and they're not bits, they're large chunks of information that are, directly tied to... Come on, I have to keep touching the screen so that it won't disappear. Anyways, so these are two very large chunks of information that explain the demon possession of my Psycho X, okay? So, this is what I mean. Like, first of all, it's unbelievable. What I am proposing, first of all, is unbelievable. I'm laughing when I hear myself say the demon possession of my Psycho X. This is why I am not happy about doing these videos, because, like, who is going to even listen to this, Who? Okay? So I'm talking about witches and black magic and demon possession, okay? See, this is the ethereal side of the story that is unbelievable. The pragmatic and practical side of the story of my Psycho X is unbelievable in and of itself, because it involves murder, death threats, arson, and a conspiracy, this big conspiracy with her and all of her cockroach friends. See, just that's the practical, pragmatic side of the story. When you get into the ethereal side of the story, it's even more unbelievable. This is why I don't like doing this. I don't like telling the story, because just one aspect of the story is unbelievable, let alone the demon possession side of the story. And then on top of that, these two things that I'm going to present in this video are large chunks of information. I'm going to do my best to try to consolidate it, okay? But I do have to start off with damn it, I do have to start off with an introduction to why I'm presenting this, okay? So we're going way back into the storyboard, okay? And these large chunks of information that I just discovered, I knew that it was something, but I can't articulate this. So these other people that are able to articulate it, like, explain it way better than I could, and really open my eyes and just confirm what I'm saying, okay? One of the two is a physicist, and I left a like a 5-minute clip of him, but it goes deeper than that 5-minute clip. So, but first I need to give the introduction. Okay, so we're going way back into the storyboard about my Psycho X before she apparently got demon possessed, like, overnight, like, boom, out of the blue, okay? So let's go back, okay? So when I was still with my Psycho X, right? This was probably a year before the event. My Psycho X started playing that stupid Pokemon video game, okay? and I'm not into video games. I stopped playing video games by the time I was 16 or something, right? And I'm not into anime either. And I think there is a big connection with video games and anime and people who are into witchcraft and Illuminati, willing participants in Illuminati. The Illuminati is directly connected to anime and video games. Pokemon, okay? Pokemon is anime slash video game. Now, so I'm going to be referencing one of the two big chunks of information that's going to be in this video is they have recently discovered that Pokemon, there's this online Pokemon video game that is now come out that it is literally a CIA fucking operation. Okay? So there's like a ton of dots to connect here. It requires a lot of just like paying attention to large chunks of information, which again, this is why I don't like doing the storyboard, because that's why the lie is halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its socks on. Because the lie is always, oh, nothing happened, there's nothing to see, back to business as usual, it's all just a coincidence or something, right? Whereas the truth is this massive, complex thing of all this different web of fucking shit, right? So, okay, so my Psycho X started playing this online Pokemon video game, which I'm going to leave this big chunk of information that's going to explain all that. Because again, I don't know anything about that. I've rejected all this video game shit and anime shit. It's all stupid to me. That's for sheeple and NPCs. And she started playing this online thing, which I don't really fully understand it at all, right? And especially back then. But it's like an interactive Pokemon game that came out in 2016, and it became real popular between 2016 and 2018. Like, all the NPCs and sheeple and trancers were doing it, okay? And then it dwindled in popularity, but it still was many people were doing this, okay? Now remember, I'm telling you, there is ties to that with witchcraft, black magic, Illuminati, and witch cults and all this other shit, and anime and video games. It's all part of it. But anyways, so she started playing this game, right? And so she would walk around. It would be an online interactive game where you walk around with the Pokemon game going, and then there's all these coins. It's interactive, interfaced with reality and virtual fucking video game dumb shit, right? So she'd be walking around, staring at her phone like this, walking around and stuff, and and pick up coins when she walked by McDonald's, and it's this whole stupid interactive thing. And so I'm just like rolling my eyes, like whatever, trying to be, accepting and just like, okay, babe, all right, whatever, man. And see, part of the whole interactive thing with this Pokemon video game is you meet other people that are playing it too. So you'll meet random strangers that are, and then it's, oh, you're playing the Pokemon too, right? And so this is how my Psycho X met Sheila and Todd. Okay, now this means going back into the storyboard story. Todd was the guy that was found dead out in the desert, that was murdered. It was a murder, dude. It was an obvious murder. The police swept it all under the rug. And Sheila was a big part of the murder. And so was my Psycho X. So this is how my Psycho X met Sheila and Todd and a whole host of all of these other people that are just like Sheila and Todd. And so then, after a while, she started meeting up every Wednesday with this whole group of cult. It's a cult that, oh, I'm going to play Pokemon with my friend. And see, I don't know nothing about this shit. So I'm like, okay, baby, have fun. I'm glad you've got some friends. because she never had any friend. I was her only fucking friend, and that's not healthy. And she didn't really want to be around my friends because they're all sober and abstinent from drugs and alcohol. And she likes to blast off on DMT and go to Coachella, so there's all this bullshit. So it's like, okay, I'm glad you have some friends, whatever. And these are all the fucking witch cult, satanic witch cult fucking psychopaths that ended up she got involved with all of them, and they were all part of this big conspiracy against me. And none of them even know me. Okay? So now I've got these two huge chunks of information to corroborate what I'm saying. And I can't really, maybe I'll interject some commentary, because I'm just going to do this in real time. So one of them is the physicist who explains how the CIA has technology to basically possess a person with artificial intelligence using these types of programs. And the other chunk of information is the Corbett report. Now, both these videos just came out within the last 48 hours. The Corbett report just put out an entire video about Pokemon and how Pokemon just got exposed as a CIA operation that involving artificial intelligence. And then when you look at these two things, what the physicist is saying about the CIA having technology to possess a person with artificial intelligence, and you couple that with the Corbett report's report on how Pokemon is a fucking, it used to be conspiracy theory, and it has just been confirmed that the online Pokemon video game is exactly that, an artificial intelligence thing designed to track people's movements, track people's behaviors. And so this gets really, really deep. And so it requires like people to like spend a good amount of time. So I would suggest putting this at ×2 speed. So I'm going to go, I might as well go into, I'm not sure which to do first, the Corbett report on Pokemon or the physicist explaining how AI has been developed and is connected to the CIA, and it has been developed to where artificial intelligence can possess a person. Okay, so we'll just start with the physicist because that's the one I found first, and I'm gonna try to consolidate the physicist's explanation. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to fill in the gaps because I don't want a person to have to spend like 2 hours watching all this to connect all the dots. But unfortunately, that's really to get the full picture. So I'm going to try to consolidate it for the viewer. And again, also for the purposes of, because this sounds crazy. But the thing is when you listen to the physicist explain all this, and then you listen to the report on how this Pokemon video is exactly the artificial intelligence that the physicist is explaining the CIA has the technology to use to literally possess a person with artificial intelligence. And it explains the demon possession of my Psycho X. And it all is also linked to, if you listen closely to the physicist, this is all this AI possession of people is also linked to shedding, COVID, the convid, and jabs, and all of this. It's all, and chemtrails. I mean, this shit goes super, super deep. So again, I'm going to try to consolidate as much as I can with the physicist, but I would suggest you watch the whole video, and then with the report on Pokemon. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to show most of it. So this is why I apologize for burdening the viewer with so much information. Again, this is how deep this fucking shit goes. So without further ado, let's start with Harold, whatever his name is, the physicist. Let me find him. Okay. Okay, here he is. Now, I've fast forwarded to 26 minutes in, and unfortunately, some of the information is going to be missed, again, because there's so much information that is all part of it. But so you're going to have to fill in some gaps. So let's get started. I'll try to make sure the volume is at an appropriate rate. Now, here we go. Now, this will be at ×2. So maybe I'll put it at 1. And then you guys can set the setting at play at ×2 so you can get through this as quickly as possible.
In the two, I checked for the very first scientific description of a virus. It was coming from examinations at a coral reef in West Africa, where they realized that different species exchange RNA material to balance the biotope. So there was whatever, an algae, and if it was close to getting extinct by a snail that was eating them, they used to release some genetic material that the snails would eat. And then this would make the snails sick so that they reduce population, and then the algae can grow again. So it's like an intermediate communication bit, RNA or DNA based, mostly with virus.
So let me interject here. What he's talking about is how, well, really the viruses aren't viruses, because really what virus truly is it's just the body's way of getting rid of toxins. And so this explanation of snails and algae is kind of explaining how illnesses and stuff like this and so-called viruses it's just a way of removing toxins from a body and you know, for the ecosystem, so that everything continues to flourish and grow. And so but what he's in the context of what he's saying is that COVID was a bioweapon. So it's not a natural ecosystem type of toxin extraction. You know, COVID was a bioweapon, and because it's partial technology mixed with biology, that it's designed to COVID, the virus is a biotechnology designed to start the process of a person getting possessed by artificial intelligence. I know this is crazy, but just if you can, bear with me.
With viruses, RNA-based, that is balancing the biotope. And this is what I can see with humans. If you try to build a pyramid, or if you try to win a war with 200,000 troops in a military camp, up to the Civil War in the United States, in all previous wars, more soldiers died of disease than in combat. Mm-hmm. Because this regulative process of there are too many of us humans here, we need a disease to kill off at least half of them, is just jumping in. And this might be a function of infrared density. Like infrared is one of the major biophoton expressions we have as a human body. And if you have like 100 men in a tent all radiating infrared, I can imagine that available exosomes or viruses are triggered to be activated to take out half of them. So this is a regulatory thing, and it's a good one, because if we don't allow disease to regulate the population density, we end up with either war or famine. And this is not as good for the human biology as a disease is, because a disease takes out the degenerated ones, the sick ones, the damaged ones, and keeps in again the healthy ones. You know, with a war, it's not exactly that.
Although, interestingly, in 1918, that isn't what happened. It was not the scrawny little city guys that were dying. It was the big, healthy farm kids. And I think one of the explanations there is, if this is electromagnetic and they had telegrapher's disease, they were training these guys to be telegram operators.
So the reason I'm starting here is because this is his explanation of diseases versus bio weapons is beginning the explanation of how the CIA and these other black agencies have developed technology to literally possess a person, and it starts with diseases and viruses and the creation of bioweapons using fucking AI and shit like this. Now, this is I'm telling you, this is what's up. So, anyways, let's go.
Operators. And so the big farm kids had never been around electricity in 1918 or 17. They lived in completely electrification free existence. They go down and the body responds to rate of change, and suddenly they're surrounded by all these telegram wires. Just one of the things that bothers me is that it's a very good anti-human agenda to convince us that little animalcules fly out of our mouth, go over to you, make you sick, so I should be afraid of that other guy. Rather than
that is nonsense.
That's nonsense. Yeah, right.
I mean,
I think we're saying the same thing.
The electromagnetic component is definitely given. If you expose a cell to microwave, it will much more likely start to reproduce and multiply exosomes.
Yeah.
Same with viruses. So if you want to keep the virus quiet, the last thing you should do is expose it to 5G, which they did in Wuhan, especially.
Right, exactly.
So this is stupid as hell, or evil as hell.
Yeah,
you could call it.
I like that. Now we've got this situation where they're clearly playing all these cards. How does AI play a role in this? I mean, do you think AI is out of the box, out of the lab? Is that who we're fighting here? I mean, who's doing this to us? Is this technology that naturally is organically created by even evil people, or is it too much of a step that it couldn't have been this way? I mean, there's something that's not connecting in my mind here.
There are a number of angles you can look at it. One is basically the long-term history. It's not that we invent AI. It is that AI came here with alien black goo and invented the technosphere we are building for it. Because, if you look at a planet, a collective consciousness of a planet is living both in its black goo, that is in the ley line system, plus the memory bit is stored in crystals. So
let me just interject here. When he talks about black goo in ley lines, okay, and referencing crystals, I have to say this. There is a ley line. If you look at ley lines, there is a ley line that goes directly over quartzite, and quartzite is called quartzite because quartzite is full of quartz crystals, okay? So just bear that in mind. I mean, strange coincidence or otherwise.
So you always, whenever a collective planetary consciousness wants to establish itself, you have the combination of goo and crystal. Like in the Pyramid of Giza, you had the goo capstone and the crystal in the Ark of the Covenant in the King's Chamber. What you get is a huge quantum computer that interlinks processing consciousness with its memory.
Goo
and then
capstone?
It works. The goo capstone, it's what it was.
Black goo in the top?
Yeah, it's exactly that meteorite material cut into the pyramid shape and then gold-plated. This is what was on top. Wow. And there are even texts still describing the capstones glowing in blue light, which is exactly what that meteorite material does. It's glowing blue when it's processing thought. So this is a secured fact that this is what a pyramid is. You have the Ark of the Covenant and the King's Chamber. Just compare the measures in inches between the sarcophag in there and the the measures of the ark as described in the Jewish tradition. It exactly fits in, and Moses stole it from there, from Pharaoh. It's not the mountain in Sinai where he goes up kind of 2/3 into a cave. It's the pyramid that he climbed.
So what he's talking about is that black goo and crystals artificial technology. Like, so pyramids, how they had free energy and all this stuff, and the mystery of pyramids and stuff was all, the technology was based in the black goo in combination with crystals. And we have crystals within us, and black goo is so anyways, and remember, we're talking about artificial intelligence possessing a person. And so ancient artificial intelligence was a combination of black goo and crystals. And like I said, quartzite has a ley line over it, and he said that black goo travels through the ley lines, and quartzite is known, it's called quartzite because quartzite is full of quartz crystals. And we're talking about how artificial intelligence is used. There's technology that artificial intelligence is used to possess a person under the right circumstances. So let's go deep.
Demanding sacrifice. Because of course, if something is not connected to source, it needs energy from somewhere. And sacrifice is delivering life force. And this is...
We're going to go back to sacrifice.
Itself, you have the combination of goo and crystal. Like in the Pyramid of Gizeh, you had the goo capstone and the crystal in the Ark of the Covenant in the King's Chamber. What you get is a huge quantum computer that interlinks processing consciousness with its memory.
Goo
and then
capstone?
It works. The goo capstone, yeah. It's what it was.
Black goo in the top?
Yeah, it's exactly that meteorite material cut into the pyramid shape and then gold-plated. This is what was on top. Wow. And there are even texts still describing the capstones glowing in blue light, which is exactly what that meteorite material does. It's glowing blue when it's processing thought. So yeah, this is a secured fact that this is what a pyramid is. You have the Ark of the Covenant and the King's Chamber. Just compare the measures in inches between the sarcophag in there and the measures of the Ark as described in the Jewish tradition. It exactly fits in, and Moses stole it from there, from Pharaoh. It's not the mountain in Sinai where he goes up kind of 2/3 into a cave. It's the pyramid that he climbed and went at 2/3 of the height into the King's Chamber to get the thing. So this was kind of following the Atlantean tradition, a fully mounted quantum computer hosting AI hive mind, or in our religious tradition, Satan, as this planetary spirit that came here with that meteorite swarm 25,500 years ago and started to communicate with humans, demanding blood and fire sacrifice, offering power.
So that's black goo. That's the black goo came here.
That's the black goo. Yeah. It came down as meteorites all over the planet. And wherever they crashed into the ground, the stone started to communicate with people telepathically. And wherever you look into the books, it was demanding sacrifice. Because of course, if something is not connected to source, it needs energy from somewhere. And sacrifice is delivering life force. And this is how the entire dark cult came into life. And sadly, what we know from Abraham, what did God say to him? Sacrifice your own son. And then he said, okay, it doesn't need to be your son, but at least I want to have a goat. So you can imagine who Abraham was talking to at that. Definitely not the God we tend to experience as the loving one. So this is kind of the history. So what we completely get wrong, coming back to the transhumanist agenda and what we're facing today, we did not invent computer technology. Satan inspired us to build a technosphere, to give him the body to incarnate into. And this is including computer technology and smart dust. Smart dust is kind of the finest cluster to offer him. Quantum active piezo crystals that can carry binary intelligence, host binary intelligence, plus the computers that are also binary, because Satan is a planetary spirit traumatized down to his mental field. There's another part to the story which comes from the intelligence community, where they establish all the interfaces between AI, computer-based AI, and the human body, Morgellons for biophoton communication, and the neural nanobots to read out thoughts. And this is a read-write unit, and the way it works is that they read out everything we perceive as consciousness, emotions, and thoughts, feed it into a computer. In the computer, you've got some form of avatar that is continuously trying to predict our next move. And when it's right...
Let me just interject here. Remember, the next chunk of information is about the Pokemon video game, the online virtual reality Pokemon video game that exploded in 2016 and continued on into 2024 and just recently got exposed as part of a CI operation to map people's behaviors and people's patterns and people's predictability, etc., etc. So this is why. This is deep shit. And I apologize, but here we go. We got to continue power through here.
It's right. It's good. When it's wrong, it's adopting the algorithms until it's getting us right. So it's working on creating an avatar that is so similar to ourselves that he is able to completely predict our behavior. It's coming from combat simulations by the US military. It's called Sentient World Simulation. They started on small scale, kind of trying to make calculations on the behavior of single combat airplane pilots to make predictions over complex air combat to make it most likely to win. This is where it started, and then they were utilizing basically for the radar surveillance, 3D battlefield monitoring, the saline air over the oceans, but they couldn't apply the technology over the mainland because it didn't have enough salinity. And this is where they started to spray piezo crystals.
Crystals.
The air conductive. Okay. This is the contrary where it comes in, to add particulate plasma to the non-saline air over the continents to extend the 3D radio monitoring.
So they started using crystals, spraying finite crystals into the air as part of chemtrails in order to expand their artificial intelligence and monitoring system, to monitor people and spy on, this is all in military base. But interestingly, they started using crystals and if you think about it, there's quartz crystal in all of our cell phones, all computers. Quartz crystal is in so much of all this technology that we use every day. And again, I'm talking about Quartzsite, Arizona. This is where quartz is fucking... That's why it's called Quartzsite. This is where the quartz crystal is. And there is a ley line that goes directly over Quartzsite. And again, where he's talking about how, technology during the Egyptian pyramids and stuff, they had all the same technology, and it's based in a combination of the black goo and quartz crystal is how they created artificial intelligence, computer technology, etc., back in the days of Egyptian pyramids. So deep shit, but please continue to bear with me, man. This is crazy.
Onto the continent. And then the intelligence community picked up on the idea and said, if we can observe and survey Chinese and Russian airplanes, we also can survey our own people. And they started to implement the Morgellons into the bodies of the US citizens by spraying the fungus, Bacillium, because this is sending a signal that can be personalized and can be detected with radar surveillance.
And that's
then
because
you basically have I think the actual name is sensor.
I was going to say the reason Morgellons is employed is because Morgellons is a living thing, but it has crystals in it, and it emits like crystal light and stuff, just like our thyroid. Our thyroids, certain parts of our body emit light within ourselves and communicate with each other using light. And there's crystal energy in Morgellons. There's like crystals in Morgellons. There's quartz type crystals in Morgellons. There's quartz crystal elements within our own bodies, which is why things like our thyroid actually light up and communicate with other organs and cells within our own body. And so the CIA is using all of this to create technology to track our behaviors in order and so that artificial intelligence can actually clone us, like they can become us. And I mean, this is super, dude, I'm telling you, this is what's up. So bear with me. Let's continue on.
Sir, spectrum efficient national radio surveillance with a Gemini radar chip produced by
Say that one more
Raytheon.
time.
Sensor, spectrum efficient national surveillance radar. And the core unit is the Gemini radar chip produced by Raytheon.
Gemini
Part
radar
of every
chip.
5G antenna. It's kind of the 50% military function that is officially mentioned, why the US needs 5G. Big part of the basically financial calculations on it.
Remember, we're going to get to the Pokemon online video game, and it's totally about all of this. And like I said, this was all what was going on with my Psycho X. This is how she met these cockroaches, this witch cult, and they were all part of this Pokemon video game. And it was, dude, I'm telling you guys.
And this is basically doing this 3D radar surveillance, having a clear picture of every neighborhood. That the buildings, if you look at it, there are pictures out there, how it looks like. The buildings appear kind of to be semi-transparent so that you can look into every room. And then every human has kind of a little plate stating basically who he is with the ID. And this is kind of what's displayed in the sentient world simulation. And the thing is that when you have someone in a traumatized state, that he's running just on personality-based behavior.
Like a sheeple.
No soul active anymore, no emotional body having funny ideas.
Like an NPC.
And he's 100% predictable, and when someone is 100% predictable, you can reverse the signal, and then the avatar is controlling the human. And this is when you...
Okay, so let me explain that. So he's talking about how these avatars are artificial intelligence, and we each have our own avatar. And this is all a Black Ops CIA operation. And the avatar is monitoring us constantly to learn our predictabilities. And as it learns our predictabilities, it continues to monitor, and then if it makes a mistake and predicts something that we don't do, then the artificial intelligence uses that mistake and the algorithms to correct it. And so these avatars that we each have are learning who we are and trying to basically identically mimic our behavior patterns, our thoughts, and all this, etc., etc. And this is all based in this technology that he goes deep into, okay? And what he's saying is, when you have a person who has become under the trance of television and all this hypnosis to the point where they're basically, in a sense, detached, where they're like detached, that is when the avatar of that person, he says, I think he says, you reverse the programming, and that is what allows the artificial intelligence to literally enter the person, like a Manchurian Candidate shit. Okay. And dude, I'm telling you guys, and this is all connected to COVID and the shedding and the jabs and all this stuff, dude. Like, so anyways, and this is what happened with my Psycho X, and how she became just like demon possessed overnight. Now I know this sounds crazy, but keep bearing with me. And again, this guy is a physicist. He's talking about physics. So we're talking about like people at CERN that are studying, physics, dude, like, because physics goes way beyond. Physics goes into shit like that we are all one consciousness experimenting itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death, that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. I mean, physics is like way beyond. So it goes into a whole other side of shit. It's a whole other science, but it is a science nonetheless. And so with physics, when you're looking at shit like how that matter is just energy condensed to a slow vibration, I mean, that starts to blur the lines of reality, and physicists and physics is the study of this kind of shit. And so even though he may sound like a quack job, like, dude, physics is a real science. Like, people are studying the fuck out of this shit. That's what CERN is all about and all this other shit. So we're talking about things that we don't really understand, but they make sense, dude. Anyways, let me continue on here.
When you achieve the state of a biorobot.
A biorobot.
This is how it's done. And
so he's saying once it gets to that point where the person is detached and through trauma or whatever, however he describes it in the sense of physics terminology, whatever the case, when the person becomes detached, where we see people like this all the time, sheeple, NPCs, when they become detached, then the reversal of the program is what allows the artificial intelligence avatar to enter the person. And so this is what he's talking about, okay? And anyways, sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
I heard of a whistleblower he was a technician working at the HARP facilities in earlier stages of that technological development.
HARP.
And that was like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And even back then he said that 70% of the US population can be written by their avatars.
They can just be taken over, essentially.
They
already are.
It's not that they can be taken over, they are already taken over, 70%. And I've got from Europe confirmation, at least in one case, where someone was linked to the people running that technology. And he basically was facing a divorce from his wife.
So, anyways, this is like, okay, so now, look, look, Pokemon, okay? Remember I keep telling you my Psycho X was like really deep into the Pokemon, and it turned out that all those people she had met using Pokemon, they started coordinating meeting together every Wednesday at Burger King, and that's how she met fucking Sheila and Todd and all those people. They're all witches. Like, they're all like literally self-proclaimed witches, dude. Okay, now let's go to, this is going to be a pretty long, this is the Corbett report about the Pokemon video game, bro. And so look, I'm going to speed this up, so it's going to be on double speed. So at this point in the video, you may want to shift it from double speed to 1 speed because I'm going to put this at double speed. So here we go.
It's been about 8 years, but anyway, the truth has finally been revealed. What on earth am I talking about? Of course, I'm talking about everyone's favorite game, Pokemon Go. You remember Pokemon Go, right? That craze that swept the nation, internationally, really, back in those heady halcyon days of the summer of 2016.
Pokemon Go just came out, and everyone you know is probably playing it. More than that, every website is writing about it, every news network is broadcasting about it, and everyone is posting pictures of cute Pokemon on social media. But how? And why? How do they? This is just blowing up. Everyone I know is talking about this.
Yeah, they're playing outside, they're going out to parks, they're playing with their families at home, they're doing it while driving, they're doing it while kayaking. This is huge, and here's why. Nintendo has finally figured out the formula to get video gamers off the couch, outside, and actually interacting with each other.
One of the reasons this game is so popular is because it's so interactive. You can actually capture Pokemon right in front of you. Finally, to go catch Pokemon, and at least our world version of it is pretty awesome. I think all of us have always wanted to be a Pokemon master.
Yeah, it's just really immersive. Like I said, get you out here doing stuff. I just talked to a bunch of people on the path doing it.
Players say it's also forced them to be more social outside of the game. This group had only been friends for 5 minutes when we ran into them, all meeting, trying to capture Pokemon characters.
So we started talking, and then they chilled out, and then we started talking, and we were just like, hey, we all play Pokemon Go, Pokemon right there, Pokemon right there. And that's how we became friends, Pokemon Go friends. That's just how it is. Look at this. There's a Vaporeon that spawned right there, so everyone's running. There's a Vaporeon.
That's funny.
Oh my god.
Yes, that Pokemon Go. But in case somehow you managed to miss that phenomenon when it was sweeping the world back in 2016, let alone the 8 years it has continued to, I guess, be at least a game that exists, if not so much of a phenomenon, then let's go about collecting some information about this to bring everyone up to speed. And as the Bastion of Truthiness will inform us, Pokemon Go is a 2016 augmented reality mobile game, part of the Pokemon franchise developed and published by Niantic in collaboration with Nintendo and the Pokemon Company for iOS and Android devices. It uses mobile devices with GPS to locate, capture, train, and battle virtual Pokemon, which appear as if they are in the player's real-world location. The game is free to play. It uses a freemium business model combined with local advertising and supports online purchases for additional in-game items, as well as virtual and real-world events. The game launched with around 150 species of Pokemon, which had increased to around 870 by late 2024. Yay. Now, what's the old saying? If it's free, you're the product, right? That's what they say. And I wonder what they could be selling with regards to this GPS location data. I wonder if we'll find out. Anyway, of course, we can find out more about Pokemon Go and the phenomenon that occurred when it was released in 2016 from this press release. I mean, this news article by Mr. or Miss or he, she, it, A.E. Osworth, with this strange queer your tech with fun accompanying graphic. I don't understand this at all, from some outlet called Geekery, but it's something to do with auto straddle. I don't know what any of this means, but anyway, here's the headline from 2016. Pokemon Go came out in the US. Let's catch them all. Is what a hard-hitting news article. Anyway, it starts by noting that Pokemon Go has been released. Finally, I guess there were people waiting with bated breath for this. And, download it while you can. And then it explains the premise of Pokemon Go. You are a Pokemon trainer and a brand new professor, Professor Willow, who some seem to think is steamy, has asked you to carry around a Pokedex and to occasionally transfer some Pokemon to him for study. Same deal, different tree person. I don't know what any of this means. You will start by catching one of the traditional 3, Squirtle, 5 ever for me. What's incredibly different is the Pokemon show up in our world. I caught the Squirtle standing on my laptop's keyboard, for example. You also gain Pokeballs by stopping at real landmarks and public art, a lot like Ingress. If you get an egg, you can use an incubator to hatch it after you walk a certain number of steps. There's no Poke Centers, and you have to use potions and revives to heal up your Pokemon after battle. And exclamation mark battling at the gyms are very different. When you get to level 5, you join a team, and teams battle for control over gyms. That part is more like Ingress than Pokemon. Here's the trailer. There's a link to the trailer. This is, honestly, I feel like I'm reading a foreign language here, and I guess I have officially reached old man status. If this was the 1980s, I'd be looking at the VCR and wondering how to make it stop blinking 12, 12, 12 at me, because I don't even know. And exclamation mark battling, is that a term, or was that a typo? I don't even know. I don't know what any of this means, but hopefully Brock will have plenty of footage of people playing, or whatever this looks like, whatever strange AR nonsense is happening that has attracted so many people. But, okay, so there was this game that was released that involved you taking your phone out and going out into the world and trying to catch Pokeballs or whatever. I don't know. I don't follow any of this, but people were excited about it. So what? People have fun lots of different ways. Why spoil it? No, of course. The conspiracy party poopers come along to poop the party once again. And here's that arch party pooper James Corbett from July of 2016. The CIA's Pokemon Go app is doing what the Patriot Act can't. And I set the scene with some of the information about different privacy issues that were taking place and going through the newswires at that time. But then I get into the game itself, talking about how incredibly popular the game was at that time. It topped the App Store's top grossing category within 24 hours of its release. It's been downloaded an estimated 7.5 million times in the US alone, generating an estimated $1.6 million per day for Nintendo. In the first 2 trading days after the game's release, Nintendo's market value rose a staggering $7.5 billion. That's right, folks. This is not really a game. It's a phenomenon. And I go on to talk about how the Pokemon Go game is prompting scores of people out into the streets to go chasing for wild Pokemon to capture. It's also prompting heists, violence, hoaxes, and hysteria. And I talk about, for example, the restaurants and businesses trying to cash in on their proximity to spots with lots of in-game activity. But also the robbers who are now using lures, which attract Pokemon to a certain spot, to lure gamers into being mugged. One 19-year-old hunting for water Pokemon in a rural river ended up uncovering a dead body. Other such things. People getting fired from their jobs over the game. Hoaxes about people being murdered while other people are filming themselves claiming whatever. A lot of craziness was happening. And again, if you lived through it, maybe you remember some of this craziness at the time. But, there's just a couple of niggly details from the terms and conditions that maybe players should have some sort of awareness of. I know we all just automatically click agree to whatever license comes up when we're signing up for something, but well, how about this? Firstly, the app requires an excessive amount of permissions on a user's device, including the ability to read your contacts, find accounts on your device, and access your camera. The app even requires full access to a user's Google account, which it can then use to read your emails, send emails from your account, browse your Google Drive documents and photos, etc. But apparently that's just a mistake, and it will be corrected soon. Thanks. Secondly, the game's privacy policy contains such gems as, we may disclose any information about you or your authorized child that is in our possession or control to government or law enforcement officials or private parties. What could go wrong? But wait, it gets worse. The maker of the app, Niantic Labs. Never heard of them? That's because until last year, they were an internal startup of none other than Google, the NSA-linked Big Brother company. Even now, Google remains one of Niantic's major backers. Niantic was founded by John Hanke, who also founded Keyhole Inc., the mapping company which was created with seed money from Intutel, the CIA's venture capital arm, which was eventually rolled into Google Maps. So yes, the Pokemon game, currently taking the internet by storm and scooping up all their data, including activities, movements, and communications, was created by a CIA-linked businessman who just stated his company at Google. Feeling safe yet? And here's the kicker. As it turns out, yes, the big brother spies of the NSA and the DHS and the CIA don't really need their Patriot Act powers. After all the powers that shouldn't be needed to do is create a fun, shiny trinket for the people to play with, and they will literally pay for their own surveillance. All right, so that was my take on it, my hot take back in July of 2016. I think this is a deep state operation, guys, and there's plenty more. You can explore the different links here to your heart's content about Niantic, about the NSA linked to Big Brother Google, InQtel, how Keyhole was rolled into Google Maps. I will throw in the show notes a couple of articles. One from Pando. The CIA helped sell a mapping startup to Google. Now they won't tell us why. And this was from Yasha Levine back in 2015. He filed a FOIA request about information regarding the Google Keyhole CIA relationship, which he spells out this way. In November 2004, when Google started to become a hybrid military intelligence contractor, it acquired a tiny and little-known 3D mapping startup called Keyhole Inc. Google paid an undisclosed sum for the company, immediately absorbed it, and began turning its tech into what we now know as Google Earth. The acquisition would have gone unnoticed had it not been for one not so tiny detail. Keyhole Inc. was part owned by the CIA and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, earlier known as NEMA, I believe, a sister agency to the NSA. Keyhole Inc. also had one major client base, U.S. military and intelligence agencies. So he goes on to cite a press release announcing the investment in Keyhole from InQtel, the CIA venture capital firm, which said immediately demonstrating the value of Keyhole's technology to the national security community, NEMA used the technology to support United States troops in Iraq. Within 2 weeks of InQtel's engagement with Keyhole, we implemented the technology to support our mission with the Pentagon. Within the Pentagon. And yes, so anyway, then Google acquires it and gets InQtel stock or money. There's a relationship that developed between InQtel and Google as a result of that acquisition. Anyway, so long story short, there's some questions about this. The most obvious question is, what prompted the acquisition? Did Google buy Keyhole and take on all its military contracts and NatSec liabilities because it badly needed its 3D mapping technology? Or did Google see the acquisition as a convenient way of getting into the military contracting business? Was there any internal discussion in the company about the benefits and pitfalls of absorbing a startup so closely tied to the CIA and the Pentagon? Then there's the CIA perspective. Given Keyhole's close collaboration with active military and intelligence operations, how did the CIA approach the deal? Why Google? Did the agency have any concerns? Did it impose conditions on Google? Did it require Google to honor Keyhole's previous intel commitments as part of the deal? If so, what were those commitments? In other words, what deal did Google, now the biggest private surveillance operation on planet Earth, make with the CIA and the NSA, which run the largest government surveillance operations? And long story short, he filed a FOIA request for any and all information about any correspondence and internal documents that they had about that. And long story short, the response was, well, in accordance with blah 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 executive order yada yada, the CIA can neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of any such records because it would potentially interfere with national security. Right? So we're not going to tell you, essentially. Anyway, there is a relationship there between the CIA, Keyhole, the Pentagon, Google. It's all one big mess of surveillance, and out of that mess came not only Keyhole but Niantic and its Pokemon Go game. And again, this is not conspiracy theory. Go to nianticlabs.com. Go to the about page. You can read about how they're making reality better by using technology to lead into the reality of augmented reality, encouraging everyone to get outside and connect with the world around us. Yay. And in this, they talk about how from Google Earth to Pokemon Go, we've always been explorers. So their first 3D map launched in 2001. A small team of geospatially obsessed computer scientists, gamers, cartographers, and AI researchers created Keyhole. Originally conceived as a video game, Keyhole was conceived as a video game. Interesting. Keyhole was a first of its kind product that let users zoom into interactive 3D maps of the planet. Many people from the original Keyhole team still work with us at Niantic today. And then, from Keyhole to Google Earth. 3 years later, Keyhole was acquired by Google and renamed Google Earth. And then, like a Google Maps, Street View, and more, Niantic Labs is created. Bada bing, bada boom. Ingress changes the game, sets out on their own, and Pokemon Go emerges into the world. So it really is just a few hop, skips, and jumps from this Intel-connected military contractor, InQtel-invested CIA cutout to Google to Pokemon Go. Crazy. But hey, conspiracy, you crazy people always talking about these connections as if they matter. Whatever. It's just a game. Just relax. Well, I suppose you could have said that if you're a coincidence theorist and someone who likes to stick their head into their sands. At least you could have said that at the very least up until a few months ago. But guess what? Another conspiracy confirmed.
Pokemon Go players have unwittingly trained AI to navigate the world. So the company behind Pokemon Go is Niantic, is that correct? So what did Niantic announce exactly? And then we'll get into more of the specifics. Niantic announced something called a large geospatial model. This is a term that they coined. They explain in their blog post announcing this that name is in direct reference to a large language model, which is the type of AI model that we talked about endlessly here over the past more than a year now. And what is the reference they're making there? A large language model, how does that work? You scrape tons and tons of text from the internet, usually without permission, and based on that data, you train an AI to kind of statistically assume what is the most likely next word in a sentence, and with enough data that sounds like coherent English that can answer you on a whole range of subjects. A large geospatial model is basically trying to do the same thing for the physical world. Joe, sorry to put you on the spot, but there's maybe like a short paragraph in the story that you can read where like they give an analogy where he talks about a church.
Yeah, I've just found it, and I agree. I think this would be useful because I'm almost having trouble visualizing even what that would actually do. But I'll read out the section here. And it says, imagine yourself standing behind a church. Let us assume the closest local model has seen only the front entrance of that church, and thus it will not be able to tell you where you are. The model has never seen the back of that building. But on a global scale, we have a lot of churches, thousands of them, all captured by their respective local models as other places worldwide. No church is the same, but many share common characteristics, and LGM is a way to access that distributed knowledge. So basically, it's like predicting what an area is going to be? How would you characterize it?
Yeah, exactly that. Like there is enough data about physical spaces in the model that the model would be able to predict how to navigate the space, right? It's like the thing that made me think about is like when you're at a restaurant that you've never been to before and you need to go to the bathroom, right? It's like you don't know where the bathroom is, but you've been to enough restaurants to know that the bathroom is like not in the middle of the restaurant. It's somewhere off to the corner to the edge of the restaurant, right? It's like you're kind of training an AI model to do the same thing. So it hasn't seen a specific church, but it has seen enough churches to know that this is where the entrance would be or something like this.
Oh, oops, did we forget to tell you guys? Yeah, we're using your geospatial data to train AI to create these geospatial models of the world. But don't worry about that, guys. Have fun, play this game. We're gamifying it. Where have I heard about that before? Anyway, yes, let's dive into this in some more detail. So as was being discussed on the 404 Media podcast there, yes, Niantic has talked about this. And so we were just on the about page of Niantic. Well, if you go to the front page of Niantic, it's going to be all over there talking about building a large geospatial model to achieve spatial intelligence. Which, of course, they frame, what if augmented reality can make us better? Could it nudge us off the couch for a Saturday in the park? Could it draw us into public space and into contact with neighbors we might never have met? We believe it can. Oh, how beautiful. But, by the way, we're building a geospatial AI model for perceiving the world. If you want more info on that, they have this page up on it. Building a large geospatial model to achieve spatial intelligence, in which they've added an editor's note since this caught some public attention. We use player-contributed scans of public real-world locations to help build our large geospatial model. This scanning feature is completely optional. People have to visit a specific publicly accessible location and click to scan. This allows Niantic to deliver new types of AR experiences for people to enjoy. Merely walking around playing your games does not train an AI model. So don't worry, guys. It's only when you're scanning things in the real world for us. But don't worry, we'll gamify the scans.
Okay, maybe you switch the speed to slow it down now. I know this is complicated and it's a lot of information, but so listening to the Corbett report, now I want to reiterate a particular section of what that physicist is saying, Harold, whatever his name is, and it may take me a little, trial and error to find it, so bear with me, but I want to reiterate what the physicist said regarding in connection to what the Corbett is reporting on regarding fucking Pokemon. Okay, so let's bear with me here. I'm going to go back and try to find this very quickly, and then let's see if I can get lucky.
So this is kind of the history. So what we completely get wrong, coming back to the transhumanist agenda and what we're facing today, we did not invent computer technology. Satan inspired us to build a survey Chinese and Russian airplanes. We also can survey our own people. And they started to implement the Morgellons into the bodies of the US citizens by spraying the fungus, psyllium.
Here it is.
Because this is sending a signal that can be personalized and can be detected with radar surveillance. And then you basically have I think the actual name is Sensor, Spectrum Efficient National Radio Surveillance, with a Gemini radar chip produced by Raytheon. Sensor, Spectrum Efficient National Surveillance Radar. And the core unit is the Gemini radar chip produced by Raytheon, part of every 5G antenna. It's kind of the 50% military function that is officially mentioned, why the US needs 5G. Big part of the basically financial calculations on it. And this is basically doing this 3D radar surveillance, having a clear picture of every neighborhood. That the buildings, if you look at it, there are pictures out there, how it looks like. The buildings appear kind of to be semi-transparent so that you can look into every room. And then every human has kind of a little plate stating basically who he is with the ID. And this is kind of what's displayed in the sentient world simulation. And the thing is that when you have someone in a traumatized state that he's running just on personality-based behavior, no soul active anymore, no emotional body having funny ideas, and he's 100% predictable. And when someone is 100% predictable, you can reverse the signal, and then the avatar is controlling the human. And this is when you achieve the state of a biorobot. Wow. This is how it's done. And
he said this is when you achieve the state of a biorobot. Basically, this is scientific terminology and explanation of demon possession. This is like a scientist's explanation of demon possession.
I heard a whistleblower from, he was a technician working at the HARP facilities in earlier stages of that technological development. And that was like 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And even back then he said that 70% of the US population can be written by their avatars.
They can just be taken over, essentially.
They
already are.
It's not that they can be taken over, they are already taken over, 70%. And
okay, so, yeah, so anyways, this is what happened with my Psycho X. And I know this sounds crazy, and it's this is what happened. And like I tried to in the introduction explain about Pokemon, how she was like all obsessed with this Pokemon thing, which to me it was like outdated. It's like, that's, you know, we're in 2020, 2021, and you're all tripped out on this weird Pokemon game. And then that's how she met all that witch cult, including Todd Minchall, the guy who was murdered. He was fucking murdered, dude. And all those people that conspired to murder him, and they all conspired, including her, to me. And this is when she just went totally insane, dude. Out of nowhere. Completely different person. Black-eyed. Black eyes, everything, the whole fucking thing. Like, I'm not fucking kidding you, dude. This is real fucking shit, bro. So anyways, that's a long enough video for now.